moving on to talk about kind of environmental standards more generally, we've had a message come in from Robert who said, will the EU have any control over the UK environment after we leave?
So that's a really good question, and again a tricky one to answer because it depends. It depends on how we leave and what kind of relationship we have with the EU. So if we have a no-deal Brexit, which has been a lot of focus on, so say Theresa May doesn't manage to secure a supporting vote or any kind of deal before the end of March and we fall out of the European Union, then no, they would have no say over our environment regulations. If we agree a deal along the lines of the ones that Theresa May is putting to Parliament at the moment, then our future relationship with Europe will be decided in the sort of the trade negotiations. So there's the political declaration which spells out what the kind of the broad guidelines for that relationship might be. And the EU has indicated that it's very keen for the UK to have similar kind of standards to the EU so that we can't weaken those standards to try and get people to come to the UK to do business. So if we assume we're going to have a trade deal with the EU, then it's likely that they will want us to commit to a similar level as they have. And the UK government has indicated that it wants that as well. So there's a lot of talk around environmental non-regression, so that both sides agree that they'll keep standards as they are. They won't weaken them. There is a question about whether or not we can commit to something called dynamic alignment, so that if one side increases their standards, will the other side do so? All of that is to be decided, so it's all quite uncertain at the moment. Even with a no-deal Brexit, we might not be free to change our environmental standards because it then depends who we do trade deals with and what kind of requirements they have for doing trade deals with us in terms of where we pitch our environmental standards. So it's all very up in the air, unfortunately.
Well, you've made a lot more sense on that than a lot of the different things I've
good.
read. So thank you for that. Just as a kind of follow-up question, I know that some of our members, when we communicate with them about the way in which environmental standards and trade relate together, it isn't always an obvious kind of bedfellow. Could you tell us a bit about why the two are so interconnected?
So one of the reasons why the EU developed environmental rules in the first place was for trade reasons, because what it didn't want to have happen was that some states would lower their environmental standards to try and attract industries to set up in those states, thereby stealing a competitive advantage from other states and potentially then polluting more. So it's really in the interest of states to have similar environmental standards, because otherwise you can pollute the environment, which is bad for everybody, and also try and get dirty industries coming into your state. So that's one of the reasons why we have common EU environmental rules across the single market. And those kind of dynamics play out in similar ways at an international level. The other reason why it's important from a trade standpoint is that some states would argue that countries use environmental standards to make it harder for them to import goods into that state. So it's a non-tariff barrier to trade. It's a way of using standards to make it, you can restrict things that come into your country. So that's the other reason why it's sort of related to trade.
That's really helpful, thank you.